All right, I'd like to call to order the regular meeting of the Sandpoint Arts, Culture, and Historic Preservation Commission meeting in the council chambers at City Hall. This is Tuesday, September 27th, 2022 at 4 p.m. So let's call to order. Oh, I did that. How about roll call? Ellie Susmas? Go ahead,
Ray Decker.
Steve Garvin.
Karen Vidameyer.
And I would note for the record, I believe that Mike Lithgow is absent, as well as Carol Kovalchuk
And Woody.
and Woody Sherwood.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. All right, did everyone get a chance to look at the meeting minutes from last month? If so, I'd love to have a motion to approve those minutes.
I had two spelling corrections.
Good catch.
Brett was Busy Beaver. His name was spelled incorrectly. It should be B-R-E-T-T.
Okay.
And I think SHPO at the end of the document is usually S-H-P-O.
It is.
And it was S-H-I-P-O.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, do we have a motion to approve minutes with those corrections?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes with those aforementioned corrections.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. All right, next up is our financial report. As of July 6th, 2022, in the Sandpoint Urban Renewal Fund, we have in the downtown section $137,523.69. And in the northern district, we have $73,998.37. We do have some money still in the budget for the silver box, $14,840.22. Oh no, that's advanced date. Sorry, the remaining balance in that budget is $5,159.78. So, any questions on the financial?
That's the same figures from last month at this point, right? Yep.
All right, then let's head on to old business. 5A, the NEA ARP sub-grant program. Let's have a report.
Yes. Well, it was so exciting to have it adopted on September 7th by council. It was unanimous. And on September 15th, we launched it. It's available on our website. It's nice and clear. There's a great button, application process. I tried to make it really nice and simple. And so far, I've had a lot of really great questions. I think the one thing that's the biggest stumbling block would be the unique identity identifier. And that's something that you have to have through sam.gov. And you can have a SAM number. It's easier to get a unique entity identifier. Sorry, it's a mouthful. And so I walked a few people through that. You can literally go online and Google. It has to do with your DUNS number. And we have to have that in order to do our in reporting with the federal government. So definitely they have to be a 501c3 nonprofit. They have to have a business license in Sandpoint. They have to have that special number.
Is Dunn's done in Bradstreet?
Yes, that's correct.
Yep.
And they can, the organizations can ask up to $30,000. It's a reimbursement grant, so they'll get reimbursements after their semi-annual report. We've set up a community advisory committee. It will be mayor appointed. We're getting that finalized shortly. Ellie, as our chair, will be on it, and Rick will be participating as well. And then because this is such a short time period and I really need all the support I can get from experts, we have some individuals from Innovia that will be participating to be on that committee. So we have a meeting, I believe, I'll get back to you guys, but for like October 10th. Recommendations are going to council on the 19th. That will be going directly to them. And we structured it this way because we had to acknowledge like how things work with open meeting law. And then a lot of you work so hard and are involved in our community with so many arts organizations. So we thought that this was the best process. So things are going well. I haven't looked yet, but I got a little notification that I did get one application. So I'm really excited. But it's kind of like planning a party and hoping everyone comes, you know, and I think I'll get all my applications the night before, and that will be great. So my role will be to make sure that I go through all of the applications, making sure everybody meets the requirements, and then I go ahead and supply those to the Citizen Advisory Committee, and then they go ahead and scale them. Does anybody have any questions about the grant?
I have one question based on what you just said that I realized I might have been reading incorrectly.
Mhm.
Does the organization request a specific amount, or does the committee decide those amounts based on the organization's needs?
In the end, that's exactly what will happen.
Okay, that's what I thought.
But I did get some feedback from people that they've never done a grant without a request amount. So I did change on the front page and I put an amount requested. And I felt like that would kind of help with the scaling for the advisory committee.
But so they may get approved or approved for a different amount
That's
or not
exactly right.
approved.
Yeah. So they'll, and that's the key. We'll have to look at all of the organizations, the impact of the organization, the community according to the criteria, and then the $100,000, and then kind of go from there. So exciting.
I did have a question about that identifying number.
Mhm.
So organizations that don't have that number, they can get that number?
Yeah,
Like,
they will want to do it ASAP. And because I guess it doesn't take as long as getting a SAN number, but I think that it takes a little bit of time.
I did see a notice today that said we're backlogged, so you might not get your number
Ooh.
immediately. So
So
I don't know
yeah,
if that'll for anyone.
hopefully
But
not.
they'll need one to be
We
approved.
have to have one. And I've been really lucky. The National Endowment of Arts has been wonderful to work with, and they actually reviewed the grant, and they kept saying over and over again about that UEI number. And so I was like, oh, so that's a biggie. And I think you all saw the press release about it. I have also been on KRFY. I'm going to be on Blue Sky Broadcasting on Thursday. And I really appreciate you guys all getting the word out. It's funny, I think people knew about it before I even came on in this position. So thank you, Ellie, for introducing it to the city, the opportunity. And it's opportunities like that as a commission, it's really important we keep our eyes out. So anything we can do to help arts and historic preservation in our community and any culture entity, we want to be doing that.
well, and that's the great thing about this one is, you know, I just happened to see it actually on social media. And I contacted our contact here at the city, and she didn't know if it was something that could be done. You know, there was a certain criteria that the city had to meet in order to be a grant funder. And luckily, we had experience before. So you never know. You never know when something, it does not hurt to ask. or to
Absolutely.
send it
Always shoot
to-
them my way.
Yeah.
In fact, I've had a lot of nonprofits. There's certain grants that only certified local governments can apply for. And so we would be applying on behalf of the nonprofit, and I'm happy to if they meet the qualification to do that for them. So that's,
Fantastic.
yeah. it's
Yeah, and
great
we're,
stuff.
Sandpoint has the CLG. In some places, it's city and county together on it, but here it's Sandpoint, right? Just
That's
the
right.
city, right?
Yeah. Yep. So very good. Any other questions about the grant? Perfect. And if it helps, I actually did a little Googling myself, and I can send the document to anybody, but another county put together a document about how to get your number. And it must have been through this process, and it has like a step-by-step guide. So if anybody needs that resource, let me know.
Is that something that people might need for other grants? in the future? I mean, it doesn't
I
have to
have
get
to
it
admit
done.
that this is very unique to, I mean, I apologize. I should understand the why behind that. I think it's a federal concept.
Okay.
We'll just leave it at that.
All right,
Perfect.
well, let's move on then. How about to 5B, the utility box wrap sponsored by STCU? Again, let's have an update.
My goodness, this project is just the wonderful can of worms. So I apologize. So Brett, I was in conversation with him at Busy Beaver, and he was unable to end up making that deadline that I had requested. So I had to go back to the drawing board with the printer. And with the city, you have to put a project out to bid. And I really want to get this done. I do not want to go through the holiday with phase 3 not completed. So I got really aggressive and I put a bid out for September 30th. And I sent it out to 6 different printers from a local all the way into Spokane. And I was really lucky. I had one person that could do that date, but it's a rush deal. And Screen Tech in Spokane Valley got the bid. I've been working closely with her. So again, it's location 14 on Larch and 5th. It's right in front of Jack in the Box. I was out there in my heels re-measuring those boxes. And so it's between like Safeway and Jack in the Box. And all the artist stipends had been paid and everything by Linda, which is great. So it's going to be Whitney and Darius Judd. And then also Susan with the sunflowers, I believe, sorry. So there's 4 boxes. So 2 other artists. I apologize, I don't have the other 2 in front of me. So what we'll do is once the boxes are wrapped, I'll let the artists know, because everything got paused through COVID and people have been asking when their art will be up. And then 5th in Cedar, we have 2 boxes, and those are the awesome historic photos. Not those ones, sorry. There are 4 different series of the steamboats. And so this is right in front, you know, the building where the carousel were, and
Is
our
now, you mean?
Smile, they're still in this location too, Smile,
Right,
Carousel Smiles.
yeah.
And then that,
And Syringa and Misty
yes,
Mountain.
absolutely. So it's on that side facing the new construction. So, yes, so,
The $1 million plyboard.
yeah, I recommend this. So Pam's working hard on it, and hopefully we'll have them wrapped by the end of the month, and the project will be finished for phase 3. There were some funds remaining. I've talked to Kristen, our contact at STCU, about completing that gap funding because prices had gone up, and there were a few more boxes that I think they weren't accounting for when they got the initial funding.
Within these.
Yes, with phase 3. So we're just trying to get through phase 3, which was at a pause. And she said she doesn't think that's a problem. She's gone until the beginning of October, so I'll circle back with her. I also set the seed about continuing doing a partnership with STCU with public art, and they love that idea. They're known for wrap projects, but they're certainly open to other ideas. One of the things that I also found out through this project is that Avista is kind of changing up their box program. So what that means is instead of trying to figure out more boxes to wrap, we need to pivot and think of another thing to do with STCU. I don't know if we
Not boxes.
not boxes,
Or not
not a
utility
Vista
boxes.
utility boxes. So, you know, let's kind of start putting our thinking caps on about what other utility objects could be wrapped. I think we only have 1 signal box, which traditionally have been wrapped in.
What's the one in
communities.
front of where Beaton Basil was? Where the owner wanted that one to be done under our prior things. But I don't remember, I don't know if it's an Avista box or not, do you?
Was that the private donor with Cammie's artwork on it?
I didn't hear about that part, so I don't
Okay.
know the answer to
So
that.
one of the,
Right in front of where,
is it
right
a,
in front of where not the restaurant, but the other part of the building that's connected to it right there, right next to where you go in to turn for Spuds.
okay.
Isn't that wrap?
That one
Yeah, I
is
think that's
wrapped.
wrapped.
Yeah.
No, there was another box there, anyway.
I think it got removed.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
because I know
I
this
think
was
that's
after
what
that
the-
one got done.
Yeah. I
And
think
the
that
owner
was-
wanted to have it done and we talked about it right before the pandemic.
Got you. I did have one private owner request, and Linda Heiss, when she was at the city, was looking into it. There were multiple things why we couldn't do it. I think doing private projects doesn't make sense for the city. It was a ting box, not a Vista, and the box was damaged. So it was just one of those things. I talked to the woman, she was a delight, she understood. But I also said, if you want to go out and try to do this on your own, here's some resources.
What about the box at the edge of the park? I think that might be a ting box. I'm not sure, right across from Justin's house. You know, Hannah, what I'm talking about?
So you're thinking about doing boxes with ting? Or is
No,
ting mostly
no, I'm not
underground?
suggesting that. I'm just asking whose box that is, so we can determine if
I
it might be a
think they're all
candidate.
in Vista. I think tings are all underground. Is my understanding, but I may not.
Okay,
I'm not an expert in this.
I thought there were some that weren't a Vista, so.
Got you. Yeah. We're all such a creative group. I think we can maybe come up with another public art project that they would be willing to sponsor. You have to remember their teachers credit union as well. So if there's an art project that can connect with the schools, I think they'd be really interested in
That's a
that
great idea.
too. So can we talk about maybe some ideas for the STCU partnership at the next meeting?
Sure.
Perfect.
All right, any other questions on the route? All right, let's move on to 5C Silver Box Public Art Project. So this is the Silver Box Art on Loan with our 3 stainless steel boxes in the downtown core by the post office, Farm Park, and up on 5th. I also sent, I just wanted to have maybe a little discussion at this point, because now we're pretty late in the season. We're not gonna get anything done this year, but I wanted to plant the seed for maybe after all of our projects till the end of the year get completed. Maybe in January, we can start drafting the RFP and maybe getting a call out so that we can
Additional,
no, not just for the 3 boxes that aren't on loan, just basically the same thing that we had done for the last 2 years. It seemed pretty simple when I went over the previous RFP. We had everything pretty dialed in. So I think that once we decide to make it happen, we'll just plug in all the dates. I put some dates on there, but those are just things I pulled them out of my head. So, you know, I think we'll want to plan to have them installed in the spring. So that gives us plenty of time between January and March to get the RFP out, get the call out.
can we maybe look at more, or is that too much to bite off?
Well, at this point, we have about $5,000 left in that original
Oh,
budget.
okay,
we
so it's a
have funding
funding question. It's a
Yeah.
fund-
I mean-
not a placement.
Yeah,
question.
when we first thought of this project, it was anticipated that we would add additional boxes, but at this point, that would be another discussion, and we would have to go.
That's why I was just asking, because I
Or
thought I
budget.
remembered some of that from before.
Yeah, but I think that it's a worthy project, and like I said, we have money left, so I would say that probably can go on the table for January, February, getting together. And maybe what I'll do is, if anyone's interested, we can get together and we can kind of determine if there's any changes that we want to do to this RFP, and maybe think about some dates that seem reasonable.
Remind me how long that process is for the silver box. Like once you do cafe and the RFP, the call out to artists in that selection period, is that a pretty quick process or?
I think we left it open about a month.
Okay.
Yeah, and if you put out enough, into the media that it's open, seemed like we had a lot of responses. within that
Perfect.
one.
And we have all of our criteria developed from all the other periods about like it needing to be outdoor, and
Correct.
I'm so excited to go through this process. And
Yeah.
I did get approval to use Cafe again and get that subscription going. So yeah, I'm excited that, yeah, we're continuing with it.
All right, sounds great. Any other questions?
I'm just curious about the budget in general. So like if we do subscribe to Cafe, does that come out of the SURA money or does that come out of another part of the budget somewhere?
That's a great question. I'll get back to you on that.
I believe it came out of the SORA money
SURA? Okay,
previously.
that's what I thought.
And I have I don't know if it's a naive, but so the downtown budget and the northern budget, what things are already predetermined that would be coming out of those funds, or what limitations are there unless it's a whole long answer?
The limitations are kind of,
We have the districts.
right,
So I actually, it'd be helpful at the next meeting if I provided a map of the two districts.
that might be in
Do
our,
you have,
yeah,
yeah,
it might be in our
In the big book?
big book.
but so Sura, so down northern is primarily Boyer, all that new development going on. And then the downtown is downtown, right? The other comment that I want to make, if STCU can't fund the rest of those boxes, for phase 3, we will have to take money out of the SURA budget, which will be a little over $2,000 to finish it. But
I
these-
thought they were doing it, a few minutes
she
ago,
was going to look into it, but she,
for the future.
no, to finish the project.
Oh, I
Yeah,
thought
'cause
they were saying they were gonna do these
No,
and they were gonna look into
I'm
the
sorry for
future.
the confusion. I contacted her. She had to go take time on vacation and then come back,
Okay,
and
so that's about the current ones to
that's the
finish.
current ones.
Okay,
And I
thank you for clarifying.
absolutely. So that, I'm pretty sure she seemed like there wouldn't be a problem, but she had to talk to the higher above and she was leaving on vacation for a month.
So SCCU already paid for like the photos and art,
That's right.
but
Yeah.
not the installation.
Not
of
the
printing.
installation of the boxes. I'm glad that I brought that up again to clarify that. So that's like my safety net is, using the SUR dollars.
However, we do need to see a map because
Mhm.
those boxes may not be in the
We-
downtown district. Did we? Okay.
No, but we think they're in the northern.
The north,
I'll get back to you.
Large
yeah, we
shields
need to
that
double
cut
check
off.
that.
Is
Yeah.
that, yeah. Well, we'll figure it out. No, I've got STCU. It's good.
Okay. The other comment I would make to that is, so for the cafe, we had a couple different projects going at the same time. So all, the subscription to cafe, I think included 3 calls at that point. And we made sure that we were going to utilize all 3. So that came out of SURA budget. Also, you asked about what is standing out in the SURA budget. The
Right.
only thing that we have approved by SURA is the silver boxes, because for the last 2 years, we kind of put the skids on any
Anything,
new projects.
right.
So,
So these monies for each of the districts are nothing is pre-allocated at this point, other than the presumption that we'd have to pay for the STCU thing.
That remaining gap moment.
So within our financial report where it says silver box, is that in addition to the SURA funds or is that within the SURA funds allocated to that
it's a budget.
project? Within, okay.
Really good questions.
Yeah, good clarification point.
And it is amazing coming in new to public art, how expensive public art projects are. Because coming from a nonprofit, I was like, this is a lot of money to work with. Yeah. So I'm glad we're asking those questions and really understanding our budget. But there are grant opportunities and private partnerships and public partnerships that we can think about too. So there you go.
Very good. All right. Melissa, can we acknowledge our guest? Hi.
Hello, you're gonna have to speak up a little louder, I'm sorry.
I
The
was,
question was,
welcome to the meeting.
thank you,
What would, I don't
I'm
see
with
you
the
on-
carousel.
Oh,
okay.
terrific.
Oh, great. Okay.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here tonight. And what is your name?
Tim Keeler.
Nice to meet you. I'm Heather Upton. I'm the Arts and Historic Preservation Officer. We're going to, we'll have a time
At the end.
at the end if you'd like to participate.
Great. All right, so let's head on to 5D, art support for neighborhoods programs.
Okay, so I have the pleasure of working with Maeve Nevins-Laptar, and she's in charge of the Neighborhoods program. So essentially it's part of our Tree City program, and just a cursory overview. The city has trees that are on private property, and the property owner is scheduled to care for them. There's been a few times when there's an unhealthy tree, and that tree can be slated to be a potential art piece. An example of that is the scuba diver outside. My husband calls it Scuba Steve. He's always like, I'm parked outside of Scuba Steve. So that kind of being a creative person, that had me thinking that as things continue to progress with trees, there will be other trees slated for art. And wouldn't it be fun to create a program that can support those moments? And so I have this idea I want to put out there for you guys, and I like to call it the Leggy Tree. So what if we went around and each tree that was slated for an art opportunity, it could become a new historic set of legs. And with every leg, we would create like a walking brochure, and you would stretch your legs to find our legs. So let's say, sorry, I don't have a visual. I'll stand on my head here and put my legs up, but like, what if we had like Minnie LaFond, who was a milliner in town, and she had, you know, a dress coming out and her legs and her Victorian high lace boots, or, you know, it's just kind of according to the tree, we could have a set of legs. And for me, it helps the scuba diver make sense. They did that because it was in front of Kim Woodruff's office, and
That makes more sense.
he was a scuba diver.
The city did it or a private party?
I think that was commissioned.
That was before my time.
Yeah, you don't claim that, right? So, I mean, to me, this goes back to placemaking, like the why we did something when we did it, not just because we thought it would look cool. And that's what helps us like look at a project and think of like art, history, and culture, right? So,
And these are on private property, you said.
yes, so we'd have to talk to the private owner. Right now, I have a Ponderosa pine near the senior center that's slated to be an art project. And again, we would have to figure out funding for it. But I just kind of wanted to tickle you guys with this idea because I thought it was pretty fun. And I like the idea of pairing outdoor experience and exercise with art.
Oh, yeah.
And I think it's kind of fun and cheeky, like our little Statue of Liberty. So, ideas?
I like the idea a lot. I would have a fundamental question is, it says unhealthy trees. So is consideration always given to whether trees can be planted there first to replace
That's
those?
correct.
And then secondly, if not, then we pursue an art solution?
Yeah.
Just,
Yeah, it's a process that we would go through. And,
'cause
and
we're
it's
losing some trees
it-
downtown in recent years.
that's correct. It's a very like intensive process that we work with. Maeve is our city forester, and then she works with a specialist, and it goes through this process that this tree, you know, can be saved. And
And there's a tree committee too, right? Or is that
this will be working with the tree committee too.
Mhm.
So
If
this
you guys haven't seen that beautiful book that was done, it's
so
incredible.
fabulous.
And you still have some, right? I
We
think?
do, yep. Yep. You're at
It's
the city and at
amazing.
the museum as well. They
It's
have
like,
copies.
it's like way more than a lot of much bigger cities have ever, it's just beautiful. And I've showed it to people all
Well, I think that
over.
was like our inspiration behind
Yeah,
this too, right?
was, yeah.
so well done. So what I didn't want to do is like go further down the rabbit hole until I chatted with you guys. What I also don't want to do is always have us wrapping our mind around what to do with a tree, what should be sculpted out of it, where this I think is kind of a plug and play concept that has a great programming idea behind it.
That's brilliant.
Thank
Yeah.
you. I'm
Totally
glad you
Great
like
idea.
it.
Would it go through the same like cafe process
No.
as far as finding
Oh,
an
well,
artist?
yes, it
So you
was.
card it?
No.
Yeah.
Yes.
So potentially we'd be working with different carvers.
Sculptors, yeah.
Sculptors.
And there's only a few in town. I know David is one. And then there was a different gentleman that did this one. And so before I went off and I got quotes about how much this would be and how we would fund it, I just wanted to present the idea to you guys to see if it made sense.
It sounds great. There was, the town I lived in Colorado before moving here was about 4,000 people outside Boulder, Niwot. And that happened there in this one particular place. And it's now become multiple.
This isn't a
tree
new idea?
sculptures. It wouldn't, but no, and not in different places. I'm talking about in one cluster.
Got you. Oh,
But I'll get my friends to
good.
send us a couple of pictures. I think you'd enjoy seeing, we'd enjoy seeing those.
So Cami, it was so funny because I love talking about art with her and Cami at the city. And she's like, well, what if it's just a little, she was being very analytical. And I was like, well, then it can be 2 chubby baby feet, you know? But I'm glad that you guys are open to it. So next steps, I'll go ahead and look at what the process would be. I'll work with Maeve a little bit more on this. And so we don't really have to vote on it, but I'll just kind of see the sustainability of it and kind of create an outline and talk to a few wood carvers and see what that would
Sounds
be.
like a great concept.
Perfect. We would need to varnish them or, so I need to talk with Parks and Rec about maintenance. And maintenance is a huge one, but with public art. I
Actually,
really
we
have
need to talk
consider.
about that
Yeah.
down at some point. yes.
Okay, perfect.
And if it is still in a stump that's in the ground, there wouldn't be any like safety issues, right? Because I know when we were looking at the David Thompson statue, the city was like, absolutely not, this is too dangerous.
Yeah.
But with that, it wouldn't,
Yeah,
there wouldn't
Yeah,
be an
the
issue.
roots are pretty secure.
Perfect.
That's a great question though.
Great idea, though.
We missed an amazing opportunity with that Highway 2 tree, huh? That would
Yeah,
have been awesome.
yeah, definitely.
Huge, huge
Yeah.
tree.
Yeah, that's right. That could be like could we do animals like a ponderay
Right,
or
oh,
paddler?
yeah, that-
Yeah,
Remember, there is that tree in the Arboretum that has the bears carved in the top of
that's
it.
right. That's right.
Right behind the
That is
museum.
fun, like Alice down the rabbit hole kind of feeling.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. Yeah, I can't get away from that, Hannah, the Alice in Wonderland concept. Well, I'm glad you guys don't think I'm crazy. So good. Okay.
And I like the collab with the Parks and Rec and all that.
That's fine. Very good.
Very good. All right, so 6B, Cultural Collective Campaign.
Oh,
6A.
Oh, dang, how come I can't read
That's
it?
one fine.
6A.
So Steve, I'm gonna have you talk to this one. Do you
Well,
want me to start it or?
Yeah, I think we said that we want to do a new edition and have it out by mid to late spring, but how do we fund it?
Mhm.
Last couple of times, we funded it from those business card size ads on the back or sponsors, we can't call them ads. And we went around and collected 12 merchants or vendors or whatever, supporters that were willing to do that. I think it was $350 each. And we were able to do 3,500, which was more than before. And thank heavens, that was right before the pandemic, because it turned out we had to cover a lot longer period than we thought. But so that's my question. We had no city funding.
Do we need to do any revisions or is it just a straight print?
I think we could maybe either you and I and Hannah or whoever, but maybe we should go through it and just make sure there's no revision. We had little minor ones and then the fire was the big one.
I think Jackie mentioned one error, but that's all she.
Yeah. And I'd say the big one last time was when the fire happened,
Yeah.
and we did take care of that, but I don't think there's any major stuff we have to do editorially. I did have a question for all of us. Would we want to put more information in there about Sandpoint, sort of in the first few pages before going into the property by property thing? That's the only other thing I
I think
thought
it's
about.
so well done in the and so well received. I
And
think
it's 32 pages
there's
and
a
it's,
tipping point kind
yeah,
of.
and it's expensive to do, but
Yeah.
it's quality. And
Gorgeous.
again, Sandpoint's
So
been
good.
very highly thought of for having done something of that
Mhm.
quality.
I think it's kind of a nice introduction. And there are other resources available if people do want to learn more about the city. So yeah, I kind of see what you mean, that people might get a looser attention if it gets too long.
And I wasn't thinking anything substantial, but I mean, going with it, just correcting it as is fine. I just thought this was the time to bring it up.
Mhm.
But so how
Mhm.
can we fund it? Do we need to do the same
Well, I
thing
think
or?
there's a CLG grant coming up. I mean, I need to look into that. So I know we historically we've done that before through SHPO Certified
Right.
Local Government Grant.
And there was a time, I think it was between the second and third one, where we anticipated that there was going to be a $10,000 city budget item for it, but that didn't happen because of timing and things. We're talking 3 or 4 years ago here now. We're not talking now. But so again, the question is how
Well, right now it's grant funding. And
we combined that with the sponsors last time.
yeah, so I think looking into that and maybe some other grants too. And let's think about other, like, what about Cal, or also like, what about some of our local community grant opportunities like Angels?
I think that's great. I also actually think it's really cheap for them at $350, even if it went to
Mhm.
400 or 500. It's a great way to have those organizations be recognized every time
Mhm.
somebody looks at it and stuff. And I feel confident that we could go around and
You want to,
secure enough
so you
more.
like the idea of hustling still
No,
and
grants, money,
just
and that
grants,
we did
grant
both last
and
time.
advertisers?
We,
still?
yes, sponsors.
Sponsor,
We
excuse me,
did that last
sponsors.
time. We combined. And that's why we were able to get 3,500 that time.
I bet with just a couple of grants, we could probably, do you guys want me to look into, like, look into grants?
I like the idea of both. If you don't want to do both, then we have that extra space to figure out how to do it, assuming we're going to do
Okay.
the same format.
Why don't I look at grants, and then who wants to look into sponsors? Steve? Anybody want to
I
help
mean,
Steve with that?
Well, I mean, yeah, but we got to be
Perfect.
ready to, if we're going to go talk to potential sponsors,
Yeah.
starting with those. And
We'll
some of
start,
those are
yeah.
gone now too, but
Okay.
I think it'd be a good idea too, to maybe tier the pricing,
Mhm.
500 on the back, 400, 450 in the in.
it's just those 2 panels, but
Yeah, it's just when it's closed, right? If it flips
Yeah.
upside
That's a
down.
good point.
yep, that's right. Yeah, we could do that.
So you guys are kind of, will be my team on figuring out funding for this.
Yeah.
We have a little bit of time.
Right.
We have I think I have 2 boxes. You have 1 box, if I'm correct, at the museum.
And I have a small amount, but
Perfect.
I just
Shoot
think
for
it's
spring.
important to make sure to have it by, let's say, May 1st.
Okay. So let's start wrapping our minds around that as a goal. And then secondarily, walking tours.
Yep.
Everybody loves them.
Yes.
I have an opportunity coming up. Sandpoint Leadership. I am a facilitator for that class. Is everybody familiar with Sandpoint Leadership through the Chamber of Commerce?
And we've done walking tours for them
Yes,
most
they
of the
love
last
it.
4 or 5 years
They love it.
through one teacher.
So October 19th is when we're going to be talking about, we're doing the history. I'll circle back with you on the museum about that one too. And they would like to have a tour guided. The class would. I'm the facilitator for that class. Again, October 19th, and I believe it will be at noon. So would anybody like to lead that tour?
Well, I would, but I'm not going to be.
You're not going to be here. I
Yeah.
was hoping that would be
The other, a couple of the prior members had some experience with it. Carrie Logan
Uh-huh.
has done it several times.
Perfect.
I would suggest having 2 people, and if
Okay.
she's here, I would,
I could always
think
help too.
like
I'll
she
be
would,
there.
you and she or whatever,
Okay.
but I would suggest having 2 people,
Okay.
especially because it depends on how many people show up. We've sometimes split groups into 3 or 4 of 10 or 12.
This
each.
is only 20 people.
Oh, right, but so that,
So I'll get this October 19th figured out, but I do think it's a good idea to do some training and have a couple of additional ones able to give tours. It's a really fun thing
I don't know
to
if you
do.
remember from our last meeting,
Mhm.
the idea came up that it would be nice to offer one to the city staff.
Yes, they
um,
all have been asking.
And
So
so
that'd
I
be a good
think
trial
let's
run.
do that at a different time, and I
Mhm.
would really like
It'd
to
be
be
fun to
involved with that.
maybe do a couple before winter hits. So and Steve and I can train you. It's not hard to do. It's kind of like little, I always call them what everyone would want to know about the community during a cocktail hour, you know, the fun anecdotal things about each stop. Anybody interested in learning how to do the tour?
Perhaps.
Okay.
Aside from that, Heather, should we, if you want to get one in before winter, should I just email you a couple of blocks of week or two that I'm here? Because I'd like to do that one for the
Sure, I
city
see
people.
this, we need to have a day where we do a training session, kind of a casual training session. And then I don't know if we would have time to, if one of you wanted to come on the tour on the 19th, and so you could see how it goes and how we do it.
And we usually did about an hour and 15 minutes. It wasn't quite an hour, but it was not an hour and a half either.
Are you guys coming to the museum?
Yes,
So it might depend on the timing.
I'll get that agenda to you and I can support you in any way if you need help with docent on that day. Okay, so I have Karen with interest. Hannah, anybody else interested in
You can
the
put me
tour?
down, but I'm got lots of stuff going on.
Yes, you do.
Again, I want to do it, but I won't be here the 19th, so we could do
Perfect.
the one for the city. And
Okay.
after some people are coming,
Hello.
two of us.
And then Rick, with anything technical, I can always count on you.
Always.
Very good. Okay, well, I will email you guys and then we'll kind of play around with some dates and see if that makes sense. Perfect. I appreciate you guys being open to it. This has been such an important historical community impact. So I appreciate you guys being armed to be able to do it. Okay, so that's all for the historic walking tour brochure.
All right, now on to 6B. Cultural Collective
All
Campaign.
my fun words. So this was a word that Hannah would hear from me when I used to be at the museum, and it's one of those things where I felt like we constantly needed to be collecting our history on a daily basis. And it's like, how do we do that? It's so hard with not having enough volunteers and, time. But on a daily basis, there were important people in our community that were passing away and so forth, not to be morbid. But so I started, and then as projects also were developing throughout the community, I thought it would be fun to create a system where we can be collecting photos, stories, and moments, any archival material from people, and be able to enrich the museum's archives. And that's always kind of stayed with me. And even with some of these important projects we're doing in the community right now, like with Travers Park and downtown Waterfront and all these other projects, when we start working on City Beach, I would love to, this is just a seed of an idea, but create a vehicle where we can be working with the community and collecting their moments and a little bit more current history. So this is a beautiful way that our community can see themselves in these projects. I even think of it for the dog park. Like, where are those amazing historic dog stories? What legendary dogs lived, in Sandpoint? And then maybe we can create some cool placemaking objects, art pieces, signage through
Paws
that.
in the tree.
Right? The three-legged dog, that saved everybody. So keeping that big picture concept in mind, my low-hanging fruit moment for this is our police force. So we just got done doing a remodel at City Hall, and I'm in charge of decorating it with the, the art collection that the city owns. And right now it consists of wonderful pieces that were donated to us to like former mayors and Jim Parsons Jr.'s collection that he donated. You'll see throughout the black and whites. Cami Ahmet's, her amazing watercolors that have graced the Parks and Rec guides every year. And so I was talking to Chief Coons, and he was really inspired by another department that did a timeline of the history of the fire or the police department. And so I would like to look into doing that for them. So it will be a history moment for the police department, but it will also be a really beautiful visual art piece too that can guide their hallways. And so what I am looking for, and so for me, this celebrates our community and it honors our police force. So again, honoring and celebrating the people that have served our city in the past, but I also believe it will inspire the future police and officers that come to serve our city. And so how I see this working, we'll be doing some research with the museum on maybe the early history. And then we would be actively seeking out, working with our current police force, names of maybe retired officers or historians of the police department, and getting oral histories and any photos they have, and using that to create this really cool art piece. And then I would like, if it makes sense, for it to be donated, all the research that we do to the museum. So if you'll have it. So would anybody be open to helping me do research and work with people and get oral histories and kind of embark on this journey of collecting our local police force history?
I'll certainly help you with research.
Thank you. And oral histories are so much fun and they're really easy to do. You literally have your voice memo on your phone and you just hit record and you record it and then you just transcribe it later.
Have you talked to any of the officers?
I have.
Have you?
Yeah, I'm just as colorful and creative. I follow them around.
But I mean, they know retired officers better
Yes.
than anybody, right? So
Absolutely.
maybe they would be helpful.
Yes, there
some of
were
that
there
kind of
were a couple
history.
of them that definitely were excited to share. I ran into a few at the coffee shop not too long ago. So yeah, and the wonderful women that lead the force up front that you
Oh.
see, they thought that was a really great idea too, and they
Okay.
can plug us into a lot of the people.
Good, yes.
What kind of timeline are you thinking of for this project?
A time period, not literally like timeline.
Oh,
or-
when are you hoping to
So it can be fairly open, but I was hoping to install it during kind of the winter time, but start like kind of in the next couple of months gathering the research. Anybody else want to join me on this journey?
Oral histories are really fun.
They're really fun.
So my mind obviously goes to technology and how that can help us, and crowdsourcing this with community members, right? And because there was a post the other day, somebody asking for a historic picture of some building downtown,
Okay, yeah.
and there was a lot of people jumping out there,
Oh.
telling stories and stuff like that. And so I don't
Will
know.
you create like the vehicle?
Right, yeah.
Okay, okay.
Facebook's not it, but
Yeah,
it would be
yeah.
amazing if we could have something where,
Yeah,
community
they could
members are,
upload.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and
I'll talk to Jennifer who does our PR and look into that furthermore, but that would be amazing. Okay, perfect.
And if that was set up, it could really help us moving forward if we
Yes.
just maintain that as an open
Yeah.
vehicle with,
I'm so excited.
yeah, we
different
spin up
prompts
this,
or.
Yeah.
the police department, and then
Yeah.
people all,
And again, like it's helping our community, it's helping the museum is so amazing to be preserving all of our history, and because I think like we have up to like 60s, but we need to
Yeah.
kind of continue that. So I love this. Okay, anybody else want to participate? And I'll get you later, don't worry.
I think the other
Okay.
thing that you said is,
Yeah.
you know, we have in the 60s, we're living in history, right? And
That's
so,
right.
from last year to
Yeah,
5 years
absolutely.
ago, like that's the stuff we want too. Right? Let's
Exactly.
preserve that in our own.
Current, always collecting
Yeah.
our current history. Yeah.
As a teenager in the 80s, I know there's some stories from that.
I can just see it. Did you have a perm? So, oh,
There
okay.
might be something about the curfew and the
Oh,
curfew
yeah,
system
right.
And
with the bell.
right, yeah,
And
yeah,
the prison in our building.
exactly.
I've heard people talk about that they were there.
And that's the thing, like they're always willing to share that. So you need to stop them and be like, can I record this? So, and that's the thing when I think with our titles as a commission, it's historic preservation and it's our culture. So we really need to understand what that means. And yes, it's our buildings and yes, it's visual, but it's also our stories and preserving the history of the people that are here, which is our culture and our history. And so this really is an important arm to what we do as a commission. And we can use it in so many different projects. People can see it in the projects that we do with the city. And the museum can use it for exhibits, for storytelling. It can be in our public art. It can be in all of our interpretive panels that we put out throughout the community. So I'm glad you guys are open to it. So, okay, well, that's a seed. So I just wanted to present that to you guys and we'll keep looking into that furthermore.
All right, item 6C, downtown waterfront design competition.
Yes. So this is the buzzword we've all been waiting for. And we had our first meeting this morning. Ellie and Mike Lithgow are serving on our committee for the downtown waterfront.
Just to explain, if you don't know, Mike is the
Competition.
tribal representative who's not here today, but he's the one they're talking about on the.
Hey, how are you guys? So he's a cultural resource officer for the Kalispel tribe. And he serves on our commission. So he's kind of double dipping, as a representative there. And so we had our first meeting this morning. And I felt like it was a really well-rounded group. I'm going to speak a little to it. And then Ellie, I would like you to speak to it as well. This is a big deal. And honestly, I'm still wrapping my mind around it. I have about 9 pages of notes. So I just want to share some of my condensed thoughts. But it truly is a history-making moment. So this is called the Downtown Waterfront Design Competition. And a gentleman by the name of Don Statsky is going to be running the competition. Don is a master architect. He's a master planner. He's a specialist in design competitions, nationally and internationally. He's done 65 of them. Okay, so his first one was Pioneer Courthouse Square in Portland, Oregon. Which is he talks about that being like the bedroom of the community, and it truly became that. And so essentially, like what does a design competition mean? So a lot of communities have a certain area with a lot of issues that they want to solve, and they want to bring in the best to solve those issues, and it's a pyramid. For us, it's our downtown waterfront. And I'm just going to touch upon a couple of issues that we are trying to solve. And one of them is water ecology and quality and this is down on the Sand Creek area, to clarify, okay, when I talk about downtown waterfront. So we're talking about like the back of the Canada and all those buildings. It's the front porch to what you see when you drive over the bypass, okay? There's water access that we want to have more availability to the public, design standards that make sense throughout our downtown, and historic preservation needs. I think the biggest thing that I heard from everybody at that meeting today, and I really believe in, and myself being a preservationist that cares so much about this community, is that we all want to preserve the historic character of this community. And we want people to be coming into this community and they have an immediate connection and understanding to where they're at and an emotion that's ignited. And they might not be able to exactly say what it is, but it all makes sense visually when they arrive. And that has to do with so many things. And to answer so many of your questions, that has to do with design aesthetics. And that also has to do with preserving our amazing historic buildings, which is part of the character of our community. And so with this design competition, what happens is Don is a mastermind and he's a puzzle guy, okay? So he takes a look and he creates this competition with all of these design criterias that need to be met and design teams. So out of these teams, there has to be an architect, a water ecologist, like all of these different people to round out the team. And then the teams come forward through this process. I believe he's still going to figure out that process that will work for us. And as I know more, I'll be presenting it to all of you. There'll be, so I believe 3 different teams get chosen to create a design that makes sense and that solves all of the qualifications that are required. And then there will be a community process that we'll all be involved in as a community. And then the community will end up choosing the one that makes the most sense for the town. But the neat thing about Don is that he's so well regarded in this industry that people from all over the nation and definitely on the West Coast, it goes on their radar because this world is kind of small in terms of design competition. And you get the best people to come in and to create the most amazing experience and look and problem solving that we really truly need. Because we're dealing with some issues that we can't be just reactive about, and that we need thoughtful planning and that are all intertwined together. And a lot of what we'll get out of this competition will make sense and can be codified to work with other design standards throughout our whole community. So would you like to elaborate on that?
Sure. Well, a lot of times when I'm at these meetings, I'm looking at the nuts and bolts of the situation. And the thing about the competition that I immediately grasped is it was a lot like the process putting in a piece of public art. You know, it's a competition. You get, one thing he said was you get what you put in. You get back what you put in. So us as a steering committee this morning, we're going to make this design guide, basically is what he talked about. We're going to put in all the criteria that we need met. And you know, that's what's going to go out in the universe, and that's what we're going to get back. We're going to get back some of the best ideas out there for our particular problem. And back to the public art situation, like when we did the roundabout, we went through many stages of discussion. First, putting the criteria out there, what we needed something that was going to stand up in the weather. You know, we could not attract deer into the middle of the intersection, you know, those criterias. And then as we got through the process, any of the bad ideas kind of got washed away because we had such a good, stable base to go from. So that's what I got out of that. And Don is an amazing guy. He can pivot on a dime, and he's so knowledgeable. And I'm really excited about the competition aspect of it, because you're going to get, instead of just having one RFP that goes out to one designer who has maybe one idea, you're going to get all of these ideas that as a group and as the community comes in and voices their opinions, we can weed out the bad ideas and just bring in all the good ideas. And I think it's really going to be a great project.
So it sounds very promising. I have one question. If it may not have even come up yet, but would these teams or this competition be dealing with only existing design review code, materials, preservation districts? Or would it be possibly working on challenging, changing, evolving some of those things, which has been something we've talked about already here a little
Yeah,
bit.
that's
Yeah.
absolutely what's gonna happen.
That is.
So
Absolutely, yeah.
changing potentially,
Everything's been downloaded to Dawn. So all of our code, there was a really important stakeholder meeting that was held after the Abbott block was burned down. All of those notes from that meeting of potential historic design overlay district design standards that need to be had for downtown, all of that information was uploaded to Dawn.
so some things might get changed as a result of
Yeah.
this, or evolved, if I can use that word.
Absolutely.
Evolved
Evolved.
is the better word.
Thank you.
Yeah, and being a master architect, I had the pleasure of doing the walk with Don and Jennifer yesterday, showing him the community. And I got to like be my little history voice. And he's just a sponge. I mean, I get goosebumps thinking about it. He asked questions, especially about historic preservation, that I never even thought about, that really made me think. And I mean, kept me up all night long. And so honestly, I mean, it's a huge deal. So yeah, I mean, it's an up at night thing, but after meeting Don and understanding his mind, and after being at that meeting today, I mean, I am on cloud nine, because I think this is just what our community needs. And it's so much of the problem solving that we've all been concerned about. Bridge and First, we had a
I
long
said, what does
talk
this do
about
with the
that.
status of that
So
proposed building?
through the public process that we're doing with the design competition with our public assets, we have all of the, at the meeting, the developers there that have private property. We hope to influence the private sector through our
But
public
so will
process.
this building that they're working on proposing, and we all, read about and heard about, but will that process be linked to this timing and everything, or it's
All I
only that
can
we hope
say
that they
is
would?
that he was at the meeting today.
Uh-huh.
It was a very positive meeting. And, we hope that they stay with us through the process. There seemed to be a great understanding of the community, the importance of historic character and preservation. And
So it's like this, basically.
we do
Gotcha.
have design standards, design code right now, but we hope to get, I feel like from that meeting, we are all on the same team and we all want the same thing.
They were at the table and everyone expressed their care about Sandpoint. So
That's why we're all here.
And the collaboration, I feel, is there, and I think it's going to be a good thing.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for that. That's helpful to have a sense of, because
Well,
I know this
yeah.
is already in the works.
I've been wanting to share this with you guys for a long time, but I had to appropriately share it with you.
But their building is already in the works. I mean, it's not been approved fully,
It
but,
has not been approved.
Right.
It's just I like to call it like a character.
and how long is the design competition gonna be?
Well, that's the thing. It's a very short time frame to get it, the competition itself to city council, like he's saying January.
Yeah, like this is
To
happening
get it
really
approved.
quickly.
So then
Then it
by
goes through the-
June, probably, we would have the final winner.
So a question, how this relates to our commission. Our commission is supposed to give recommendations to council.
That's correct.
Advise.
Correct. And how does this relate to us? Is this under us? Is this separate from us?
That's a great question. So Ellie is representing our commission along with Mike on this. And so you guys are going to be in on all of the top secret information you could ever imagine. If we have questions, I've definitely downloaded so much historical support to all of them, but any additional, I'll be queuing into the museum for needs if they need more. I've definitely, if I have particular questions, as we go forward and we see what comes out of the design competition, when it has anything to do about like historic preservation or anything like that, and more in the weeds, that's when we're really activated. I think for us as, in terms of historic preservation as a commission, if we can continue doing our great work of identifying important historic buildings visually, thinking about like locations of where those are at.
An updated survey.
Updated survey in the master plan, it really outlines a lot of the needs of what we need to be doing. So as time allows and when it's appropriate, we'll continue to identify and catalog and make sure all of, honestly, if we can keep getting a lot of these buildings that are super important visually, historically on our national, having them individually recognized on the national registry, I think it would have a lot of value too, not just in
But it has
district.
more teeth if we do it locally.
Yes, yes.
It's symbolically important on the national register, but that doesn't
But
have teeth.
Steve, that could be in conjunction with teeth later on.
Right, I'm just saying, just so we
So-
understand,
so
it's
absolutely.
symbolically very important
It
to be on the
is.
national register, but it's symbolic as opposed to teeth.
But it will give greater teeth with anything of the teeth that we create within the
Yes.
city.
Absolutely.
So that's the thing. And yes, we have our district, and yes, we had an expansion of our district. But you know, I think the more that we get intimately involved in our buildings and the why of preservation, and also understanding historic buildings that are past preservation, you know, to understand that too, but still how to celebrate them, you know, that's a really good thing to wrap our mind around. The why behind preservation, especially with our visual buildings. We definitely don't have a lot left, right? So like it definitely pulls on my heartstrings. But we also need to understand like facade improvements for other historic buildings that historically aren't that, you know, that kind of need a little. So this is a big elephant, and we're going to be there on the journey, and we're going to start taking little bites out of it.
Well, that's, I think, what he was asking.
Yeah, and this design competition though checks off so many of our boxes in the master plan, which is so amazing. Because that's a 5 to 10 year plan, and we will rapidly approach those. But one thing we need to think about too, we have all those buildings on that Sand Creek area, and that, you know, developers are interested in, it's waterfront, but that soil quality is not amazing, right? So, you know, they're dealing with some huge structural things that they have to understand too. And so hopefully we can all work together on understanding how to move forward, you know, and have those buildings safe as well. And built right, you know, that makes sense within the vernacular that we have in our historic community.
And just a footnote, or maybe it's not even a footnote because it's such an important icon, but the Canada Century Fund is being launched, and it's time to go at their 100th anniversary, which I think is 27, if I remember correctly. But so that'll be an important part of some of these things in that district for the next 4 years as well. And this is a real big deal for them and for the community that this is being launched.
I mean, our community is so beautiful already, and we have such amazing natural resources that put us on the map, like worldwide, right? And can you imagine activating that front porch area, more public space and illuminating it? I'm just gonna throw out there projection art on the back of the Canada. Anyway, I'll stop there. But any other questions? You can tell I'm really excited about it.
Thank you for talking about it, you two, and helping us.
I always, you know, my heart is right there with you guys, and I always want to share, but know that I will always share in the appropriate time too.
So maybe you can keep us updated as a commission as things
Absolutely.
happen, and then maybe as individuals, if you guys have ideas and things that you want to bring to Heather and I that we can take to the
Yes,
steering committee,
please.
you know, feel free.
We want
That
you
would
guys to
be
share everything.
Amazing.
I love that. Please share this with everybody. Please do. Let the community know, like, we're really trying to do this right. And also let people know that rendering on Bridge and First it's almost like a cartoon. It's not valid. It doesn't, he put it up there to entice investors, and he has that right, but it doesn't pass code, you know, and
It's not been approved.
it's not been approved, you know, and so
It's not even fully on their property.
Yeah, I mean, there's
So-
just so many things, right? It's like, so I
It's not
mean,
gonna be that.
I love the passion in our community, and it's easy not to be reactive to something like that. But we all need to kind of take a breath and know that like we have such talent here at the city. There's talent in our commissions, and we're all working hard to make this just done right. And that's the key. We want to do this right. We only have one opportunity. And so,
So as the project develops, I assume that Dawn and or the city will be creating some sort of online presence where the community can learn more about the project and the competition. and
Ongoing.
everything.
there'll be a time period where the public will be involved, and there might even be, he's talked about it in the past. And it might, and you can Google it, like there's been a lot of design competitions out there, but, and it talks about the different process you can see through the other design competitions. And there'll be also like one time in Boise, he did one, it was really interesting. And there was like an exhibit in the community where they could come and see. So I believe the public process will be more with when the proper presentation of options.
Right.
Period will
After
be, yeah.
I
we've
know.
got some teams of
Yeah.
us,
Yeah.
I know when the consultants were developing this plan, I thought it was really neat to be able to go online and see their portfolio of other projects they worked on. I think it built a lot of like.
If I shared that with
trust
you, that
in
would,
the
yeah,
Project, being able to see that.
I can send some things to you guys. His portfolio is amazing and his resume. Okay, so
Any other questions on that? All right. Well, then we're down to 7A. This is all around the room. So we don't really have a public portion, but I suppose we have some guests here that would like to speak. Sounds like, Melissa, can we plug this in here?
Sure, Clay Hutchison, I'm with the Carousel Project. And first want to say I'm happy to see you all working and up and running. Took a little while. Welcome.
thank
This is your
you.
first, second meeting. I don't know how many meetings you've had. Third. Well, I'm a little slow on the uptake. It's been a busy summer for me. So cool. And at the appropriate time, we love to present to you what we're doing. It's a historic carousel machine, even though it didn't exist here in Sandpoint. It has lots of connections to history and preservation, and we'd be happy to share some of
On
them
the waterfront.
and the waterfront. So couple quick questions on this design challenge. First we knew about it was reading about it in the Reader last Thursday. As I suspect most of the town found out about that way too. But so the scope of the competition is really what we know is the Farman's Landing project, which is on the town side of the, is that
We're
correct?
still trying to determine that.
Okay.
So we did a lot of downloading with Don. We showed him, all of our Sand Creek where it runs through all the watershed too. And
Going back up. Okay.
yeah, and then he heard from individual departments within the city that are specialists. And he also heard from the committee this morning.
Okay, so you're still working that out. And then the teams of competitors that you alluded to, where are they coming from? Is that regional, local, nationwide?
My understanding that it can be from all over.
All over. So you're opening up. Okay, all right, it's good to know.
Someone mentioned like would universities participate, and his answer to that was there might be some professors from universities that team up with a design
Okay.
team and create their own team. So it's not in
Yeah,
representation of the university. And Clay, I'm sorry, I don't have all the answers. I'm kind of learning.
No,
too.
that's fine. That answers some of my big questions. It's kind of, I'm sort of excited to see this happen for
Yeah.
that thing. It was kind of we in conjunction I wouldn't say partnership, but in conjunction with the city submitted an NEAR town grant beginning last year. We were unsuccessful in getting that, but it was about a design competition format for the carousel building in the parcel that is that we think we're going to be in, certainly, which is the old hotel site there. And so we were unsuccessful in getting it. Didn't quite resonate enough, which is probably more my grant writing skills than anything else. But or timing, who knows? But we as a carousel project have moved past that idea. But it's kind of interesting to see that it might some of those ideas, and as you say, it works well for the city in that parcel. So Yeah, interesting. Okay.
And Ellie and Heather are on that commission, right?
I'm a city advisor,
Yeah, I
and
think
then
you-
Ellie's
I
on,
think you hadn't come in. when-
Ellie's on.
Yeah,
the
no, I'm sorry, I was
commission,
late.
And also another representative from our commission who also represents the Kalispell tribe, Mike Lithgow.
Right. Right.
And, you know, our hope is that the inspiration from this will just magically kind of layer into all these other projects that you're mentioning that you may be a part of too, in terms of,
Well,
what
we're
we'll achieve.
pretty far along with what we're thinking about for the building, which
Okay.
is not just a carousel pavilion, but is it evolved to include an art center and an event complex. We've shared some of that around there, and we think it ticks a bunch of boxes in terms of Sandpoint wanting to, desiring and stated in the comprehensive plan to be known as an arts community. There's a few things that we don't have as an arts community, such as a really nice place to have an exhibit that isn't driven by some of the other groups. So, you know, we think we're touching on a lot of boxes, and we're pretty excited about what we're doing. And so in the next, you know, certainly by the end of the year, we expect to be ready to start sharing that publicly with
terrific.
you know, maybe your commission here first, who knows? But certainly with the city council and then and to keep moving. So the waterfront aspect of that, we have some ideas on how to revitalize that 25 feet a little bit, but that's certainly the type of thing we would share those ideas when, and that may be something you roll into that competition or not. But
Yeah, and if you have any suggestions, ideas, concerns, feel free to email me and or Ellie, and we can certainly share them as we're downloading to
right,
the
right now, we look
lead
forward to
on the
seeing what
competition.
you all come up with. But so I guess we'll be communicating when we get a little bit further. When we get a little bit further along and feel like we have what we need in presentable form, I'll reach back out to you and maybe we can do a little PowerPoint with you all on a formal basis.
Yeah, that would be wonderful. You certainly
Sure.
will bring a lot of magic to our community with that,
Yeah,
carousel.
so it's been a big group effort, lots of volunteers and a lot of commitment to making this happen. So we're pretty excited about being sort of the face of that. But it's a pretty giant group effort with a lot of people, and there's a lot of talent in this town on all fronts. So we're happy to see that hopefully showcase with this project. So, thank you.
Thanks for sharing,
Yeah.
Clay. We look forward to keeping in touch.
Yeah, thanks. I'm Bert Trollock. I'm just a resident. I'm a complete newbie to Sandpoint. I read about the design competition in the paper the other day. And we were absolutely thrilled to hear about it because, I mean, Sandpoint is a jewel. I mean, we want to stay here for the long run, and anything we can do to help preserve its character, increase accessibility, some of the things you just mentioned as part of that are all music to my ears. So I don't know if there's anything I can do to help. I'm not an architect. I'm not an ecologist. I am an engineer.
Oh, wonderful.
I'm doing time, but if somehow I can get involved, I'd like to do that.
If you could just share with the community your feelings and your excitement, that goes so far for us. And welcome to the community too.
Thank you. Thank you.
Where did you come from? I'm always curious.
The Boston area, actually.
Oh, terrific.
East Coast my entire life. My wife spent some time in the Northwest, and we just looked across the Northwest, place to retire in 2017. We spent a day and a half in Sandpoint, said, okay.
It was a long bridge.
Come on, yeah, a long
wasn't
bridge,
it?
that's it.
Well, wonderful. Thank you for
Thank
being here
you.
today.
Yeah, thank you.
We appreciate your comments. And did you have any comments as well? Thank you for being
Clay
here.
pretty much.
I love
It's
it.
part of our group.
Your team. Perfect.
Yeah, thanks for coming.
So this is going to be a time that we'll have on our agenda. We heard a lot of feedback from you guys about wanting to have just kind of an open conversation about things you're excited about or concerned. So I'd love to hear from you guys. Anything you want to share?
So I did my homework and I actually read most of it.
Go Hannah.
I got a little behind, but I forgot how great of a path they laid out for us with really clear action items. I was particular, as I was reading through, I was like, wow, wouldn't it be great to have like a prioritization list. And then, I got the last one there.
I kept having that happen too.
So just, I think it could be good for us as a group as we're getting involved in really specific projects and so many really good ones, before we get too busy, to maybe sit down and go over these last few pages in the plan, kind of identify where these projects fit into our goals.
Absolutely.
And then I love that they have the implementation timeline and the priority scale. But in terms of thinking about that on a smaller scale, like what are our priorities and timeline for this year? I think that could be really helpful just to reconnect with that and make sure that everything we're doing is on the right track as we laid out.
Certainly.
Didn't somebody at the last meeting,
I
or the
had-
first ones talk
I
about
had it on the agenda
Right, to
because
read
I
it
had
and then
that
to
same idea.
focus on that?
Yeah.
So maybe for October, we should set
I
part of
mean,
the meeting aside to do
I
that.
think so. And so we would make our agenda shorter to be able to cover that. And I actually took my whole master plan and cut it up. And I have it all over my cubicle.
Nice.
And so like, it's like a,
It's like a beautiful.
has a lot of it. But so I can literally like sometimes I'll just take like, oh, these goals and then I'll pair them and match them almost like a big puzzle. And then we already accomplished 2 of them with myself and the merging of the commission. So I put those in the done area. So I love that idea, Hannah, and I definitely support that. And that way, and we have to remember it's a 5 to 10 year plan. And yeah, so like what goals will be checked off with the design waterfront competition? Like what's our low hanging fruit we can do right now that we're kind of up, we're getting started. What do we want to do next year? You know, and do our strategic plan with our master plan. I love that. So we'll, Ellie and I, we have an agenda meeting that we have at the beginning of the month. And I think we'll kind of reorganize our agenda to make sure that we comfy enough time to achieve that.
And we already discussed onboarding. That was Megan Cherry in Moscow uses onboarding every month.
So
She
she
does
was
every
suggesting,
month,
she's kind of been
you
my
know,
mentor
onboarding training.
a little bit. Yeah.
We decided we probably don't need that every month, maybe if there's just specific items
Yeah.
that we need to bring up. But if we take that off, then we definitely have time to put to our master plan.
Especially as she said, before we get deeper in.
Yeah.
That's why I think whoever said it last time too, it's just a timing thing. It's a good idea to do it well, make it fresh and have it, some of the implementation things in the fronts of our minds.
And now that we know with the realization of the downtown waterfront design competition, that now we can, I was just waiting for that one appropriate seed to be presented. So.
Or did you have
Fantastic.
ideas for?
I think that's wonderful to coordinate some of the information that's in there with all of the projects that we have going.
Yeah, all of a sudden it's like,
Yeah.
no projects,
Mhm.
lots of projects.
It was the very first day. I read it. Whoa. Put it together.
It's good though, it's good to
Yeah.
have this.
One thing I'm doing, I'm teaching a drawing class. And I'm gearing it toward a new program they call urban sketching, which I have done in Seattle. And I have about 9 students. And what I'd like to do is go around and although we have very inclement weather
Right.
coming up. So what I'm hoping we can do is either work from photographs eventually, but I'd like to bring people out into the street and start drawing and bringing that back to class, making particularly historical buildings.
Oh,
That's a
that'd be
whole purpose.
fantastic.
So what I'm wondering is maybe, especially because this might be important to you, is how I might contact someone who happens to have a big old beautiful building and we say, let's go and draw that. It might look a little fun with 9 people.
Well, I immediately think of Mickey with Macduff's in the federal building, and they love
space
supporting the
across the street.
community. Yeah, they'd probably be like, come on out here.
Yeah, I can only imagine it would be good publicity for them if people are outside asking, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And it brings more attention.
The
to what
event
they're
center
doing.
would be a great one too.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I love that idea.
We can, your building. It's interesting because it's kind of like you capture a little bit of that history that you bring home to yourself.
Absolutely.
And it's also kind of it becomes a diary for where you've been.
I would love it if you guys would do all the historic buildings.
Yeah, I'll probably be doing this all year. For the
Perfect.
rest of your life.
And then if you don't mind, use your walking tour brochure and with your class, share a little bit of the history
As a matter of fact,
before.
it's all.
I figured you would.
driven into that program.
Okay, perfect.
If you need more, we can get them to you.
Oh, yeah.
In fact, I handed out all the.
Feel free to
Thank
stop
you,
by the
Mary.
museum if you want any reference images for how the buildings used to look.
Oh, that'd be great. Yeah, we'll do that.
They're an amazing resource. That's wonderful. Thank you for sharing that.
I have a very brief announcement. I've just been asked to join the board of Preservation Idaho.
Steve,
And I'm
that's
thrilled and
great.
honored, and, I've gone down this summer to their 50th anniversary and last year to accept on behalf of McDuff's for the orchids and onions. They're the ones who do the orchids and onions thing. So, I'm really
Congratulations,
excited.
that's so
Thank you.
wonderful. Very good.
Haven't even had the first board meeting yet, but they just asked me last week. So
Oh, wonderful.
I'm excited.
Such a
And I
good,
think it'll be great
oh,
doing
yeah,
that as a member of our commission too. So,
indeed. Perfect.
I think I'm excited for the design commission competition so that we see what a goal is or a template. I'm nervous about maybe restricted so much that like arts is part of this commission and there's a lot of naysayers out there if they see a building that they don't like. It's put it down right away rather than, hey, maybe it's just before our time or, there's a lot of that comes into it. So I think, having a design commission competition is great. So we have that. And then we can work our way back and then see if we're restricting it too much. Saying that this is the only material you can use. That's going to make an ugly city if it's one material,
Yeah.
right? So
We still have to have progress, but we still
you're
have to be
exactly right.
preserving. So it's
Right.
like, how can we make everybody happy? And I always believe that. And I know that might be naive, but I actually think Don can figure that puzzle out.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm excited about it.
I am too. It feels great to have like a direction.
Yeah.
So strong like this.
Yep. And then community involvement, right? Because there's a lot of voices out there saying stuff and, thinking they don't have a voice. And
Yes.
so
That
it's
was something that was brought up this morning a lot.
Yeah.
sweet.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Because then if we all decide on it, then that's the way it goes, right?
Yeah.
I have a question about the design competition. How is it going to be portrayed to the community? How is it that's going? I was reminded immediately when we were talking about the tunnel build in Seattle was a pretty fantastic project. And it involved so much money, so many people, so much time. And I recall walking through Pioneer Square and they had a video of everything that was going on at the same time. And it usually gathered a lot of people because they didn't know what was going on underneath the city. And if there's some place we could identify that would be visual for people to come and see, and I don't mean necessarily video, but maybe the designs get put up in the windows so that people know. what's
Yeah.
going on.
From the competitions he's done in the past, I definitely have a very igniting visual that really includes the community. Again, Don's actually going to come back in 2 weeks. He's in Portland, Oregon. And kind of, so everybody downloaded on him and then I'll come back with kind of the next step. And so we'll know more about that further in the process, but I'm not shy. And so I definitely voiced my opinion.
You're not shy.
I did my historic preservation rant to him during the tour. And yeah. So, thank you for sharing that. That's a great idea. It's important. So I just appreciate you guys all sharing all the important things we're doing. Again, like make sure everybody knows about the grant opportunity. Please speak to the design competition if you have further questions or need more sound bites, let me know. And yeah, I just think we're doing some really exciting things. And I think the more that the community knows about it, the brighter we'll all feel.
I think that's a big part of our job is community outreach. So thanks for everything you guys do.
Yeah, I appreciate all of your time.
All right. Well, if there's no other questions, comments, then I think that we can adjourn.
Almost 90 minutes, 88 minutes.
Fantastic, we covered a lot.